Hi, hi Sarah. It's Hunter. I'm sorry it's taken me a while to get to this today. I'm going to try to answer some of your questions briefly. Um, so I'll start. Why did you want to do a piece on the subject of long-term survivorship and why now? Well, for the last 5 years, I have been working on this body of work called Survival AIDS, which came about as a result of a series of HIV strokes that I had in 2005, almost 10 years ago. Uh, so these strokes were ended up being a fungal infection on my brain that caused a series of slow-moving strokes that were misdiagnosed as neuropathy. Um, So it took a couple of years to recover from these strokes. I lost my entire right side eventually, and my hand is still paralyzed. And it, the result was that I had to reevaluate everything in my creative life as well as my regular life. And I look back upon my career as an artist and my life as a person with AIDS for 20, 30 years. At the time, it was 20 years, now 30 years. And so part of that process was digging through my archives and my work and trying to cope with reinventing my art. So I found these boxes of newspaper clippings that I clipped between 1989 and 93. And it seemed like an important thing to go back and weave them together, bringing together my various bodies of work in this kind of archival way. And so it's about surviving. The title of the body of work is Survival AIDS, and it sort of weaves together my history as a person with AIDS and HIV and as a long-term survivor. Has living through AIDS on the day affected your life and so how? Yes. Um, That's obvious. I've made all my work, even late AIDS work. Go to my website, you'll see I've created a number of pieces that have dealt with AIDS and HIV in my life from the beginning of the epidemic. So it was one way for me to communicate and deal with not only the death and loss and suffering back in the 80s, my own HIV status. I didn't think I'd live to be 40. And so, yes, it's affected every way that I create and has helped me to survive. Yes, I do often feel that I suffer from survivor guilt. This comes in waves. I lost many friends in the 80s and in the mid 90s, and survivor's guilt is something I think is a natural feeling to have. Why me? Why have I survived and someone else hasn't? I cope with it by just letting it run through me, and using my work and my life as an example of something that may give someone else some hope or show that if you surviving is possible and you can reinvent yourself through your work, which I have done many times in the past. Yeah, so obviously I hope that my work creates an awareness for younger people. Waves of youth have generations have gone by, and these generations are always looking for reference points, and I hope that my work is a reference point for not only the history of survival, the history of the AIDS epidemic, um, long-term survivorship. I'm And many others are examples of the kind of battle that was fought, and we're still fighting it, and the war is not over. People are still being infected, people are still dying, and this young generation of PrEP users, I am an advocate of PrEP, but also I feel that it's not foolproof, and you still have to be careful. I believe yes, I was a member of ACT UP, and I also started a group called Art Positive. So I was a founding member of ACT UP in 1987. I, from the beginning, was going to demonstrations and playing my role as a kind of soldier in the Army. And then in 1989, I started my own activist group called Art Positive, which now has an exhibition in Chicago. I hope you saw the links to that. I'll send you a few links to it. And that was about censorship in the arts, and it was an affinity group of ACT UP that was fighting homophobia, AIDS phobia, and censorship in the arts. And there's a current show of our archives at Iceberg Gallery in Chicago. I'll send you the link. Yeah, so the imagery, part of the Survival Aid series was reaching back to different periods of my art. So the first series I incorporated the layers of blood spot performances. So there were the big spots of blood, or my blood, that I used in performances back in the 1990, 89, 90 period, where I dropped drops of blood on paper and wanted to sort of reclaim my body and the HIV through making these abstract images of my body. And I've used the blood spots in various ways throughout the years, projections and photographs. It's a continuum of something I've been doing for almost 25 years now. And sewing together the sewing photographs was a way also for me to put photographs together, and that I've been doing also for 25 years. And so in the Survival Aid series, I was incorporating, looking at different performances, like the central image of the memorial dress, me in drag, with the dress. The memorial dress has 25,000 names on it of people who died of AIDS. It was a performance piece and a public art piece that I did throughout the 90s in cities all over the world, hundreds of performances, and I've used that image in one of the pieces. So it's really about me going back and using my performance art and different things that I've done throughout the years and bringing them together in this new way, in this archival layering of history, my own history and this kind of early history of ACT UP and AIDS, the newspaper clippings. Also, the mummification performances is something I've done for also about 20 years, and it was like about transformation, and the imagery in these pieces are from various performances that I've done over the last 12 years. So I'm really weaving together my own history as well as other histories in this new work that I'm doing, which kind of ties together all these links between myself and my work and culture, identity, gender, sociological histories, and how I move them forward. Yeah, so the titles are basically taken from the headlines, and I choose those headlines according to what they might say or refer to, bring a focal point to the piece. I take lots of liberties in what I'm doing in Photoshop. It's hundreds of hours of Photoshop, and I actually layer in lots of other images over the original pictures, or I remove original article pictures. It's not a it's not a necessarily linear or accurate history. I fuck with the history in many ways. So it's perceptual, and I'm not just presenting. I'm kind of weaving together different histories, and I'm taking lots of liberties with them by replacing articles or making it seem like my personal imagery is part of the article. So if you look at the layers of them, the archival newspaper prints are just the beginning. So I hope this has answered some of your questions. I'll get this off to you right now.